Welcome to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. Today, we're breaking down a slate of new legislation moving through the Senate and a key committee hearing on the EPA budget.
Let's start with Senate Bill 75, which would modify the government-wide financial management plan. In plain terms, that's about how the federal government tracks and reports its spending. Better financial management can tighten up waste and potentially free up resources for other programs that affect everyday Americans, like infrastructure or health services.
Right, and while the bill doesn't directly change a program, the ripple effect of more efficient budgeting can show up in lower deficits or more predictable funding for services we rely on. It's a classic example of a behind-the-scenes improvement.
Moving to veterans, health, Senate Bill 609 seeks to improve mental health services at the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA has long faced criticism for long wait times and gaps in care. This bill aims to address those gaps, which could mean faster access to counseling, therapy, and crisis support for veterans returning home.
That's crucial because mental health challenges like PTSD can affect not just veterans but their families and communities. Enhancing VA services could reduce homelessness and improve workforce participation among veterans.
Next, we have two bills honoring historic service. Senate Bill 567 would award a Congressional Gold Medal to the 1st Rhode Island Regiment for its role in the Revolutionary War. And Senate Bill 645 would award a Congressional Gold Medal to the volunteers and donors who kept the North Platte Canteen running in Nebraska during World War II.
Those medals are among the highest civilian honors Congress can bestow. Recognizing the regiment highlights the contributions of African American soldiers in the Revolution, while the North Platte Canteen story showcases civilian support on the home front. Both bills serve as reminders of how ordinary citizens have shaped our history.
On national security, Senate Bill 192 proposes to restrict the first-use strike of nuclear weapons. Currently, the United States maintains a policy that leaves the option of a first nuclear strike on the table. This bill would require higher-level consultation before any such use, aiming to lower the risk of accidental or hasty nuclear escalation.
The debate here balances deterrence with safety. Critics argue that limiting first use could embolden adversaries, while supporters say it adds a vital safeguard against catastrophic mistakes. The bill reflects a broader push for nuclear risk reduction.
Shifting to animal welfare, Senate Bill 1454 would amend the Animal Welfare Act to provide greater protection for roosters. While the text is brief, the intent is to address concerns about how roosters are housed and treated, especially in breeding operations.
That ties into a larger conversation about farm animal standards and could set a precedent for future protections of other species.
Family caregivers get a spotlight with Senate Bill 1227. It requires the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Commissioner of Social Security to review and simplify the paperwork, forms, and communications that caregivers navigate to help loved ones qualify for Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, and Social Security benefits.
Simplifying those processes could reduce administrative burdens for millions of families, making it easier to get timely care and financial support. It's a direct way to improve the day-to-day lives of caregivers.
Law enforcement safety is addressed in Senate Bill 1418, which directs the Attorney General to develop reports on violent attacks against police officers. By gathering systematic data, the Justice Department can better understand trends and recommend protective measures.
Data-driven approaches are essential for crafting policies that keep officers safe while also respecting community concerns.
Rural health gets a boost with Senate Bill 1380. This bill amends the Public Health Service Act to create a loan repayment program that encourages specialty physicians, like cardiologists or oncologists, to practice in rural areas where there's a shortage.
Rural communities often have to travel long distances for specialist care. Incentivizing doctors to locate there can improve health outcomes and reduce travel costs for patients.
On the tax front, Senate Bill 1565 would amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow parents to count certain expenses as medical expenses. That could expand the pool of deductible costs, potentially lowering tax liability for families with high healthcare spending.
It's a modest but welcome change for families juggling medical bills, especially those with chronic conditions.
Criminal law sees an update with Senate Bill 1572, which amends Title 18 of the United States Code to improve the federal carjacking statute. While the specifics aren't detailed here, the goal is to strengthen penalties or close loopholes in carjacking prosecutions.
Stronger statutes can act as a deterrent and give prosecutors more tools to address violent theft.
The maritime sector is supported by Senate Bill 1541, which backs vessels, ports, shipyards, and the U.S. maritime workforce. By investing in these areas, the bill aims to bolster national defense and economic security, recognizing that a robust maritime infrastructure is vital for both commerce and military readiness.
It also helps preserve jobs in coastal communities and ensures that the United States maintains a competitive shipbuilding industry.
Language matters too. Senate Bill 1504 requires the Social Security Administration to revise the terminology it uses in rules, regulations, guidance, and other materials. Updating language can improve clarity for beneficiaries and reduce confusion about eligibility and benefits.
Clear communication is especially important for seniors and people with disabilities who rely on Social Security for essential income.
Turning to technology, Senate Bill 1705 directs the Secretary of Commerce to issue standards for chip security mechanisms in integrated circuit products. In an era of supply chain vulnerabilities, establishing security standards for semiconductors helps protect everything from smartphones to critical infrastructure.
It's a proactive step to safeguard against malicious hardware and to keep U.S. tech firms competitive in a global market where security is a selling point.
Finally, Senate Bill 1716 amends Title 27 of the Public Health Service Act to improve healthcare coverage under vision plans. Better vision coverage can lower out-of-pocket costs for eye exams, glasses, and surgeries, which are often overlooked in broader health discussions.
Vision health is linked to overall well-being and workplace productivity, so expanding coverage can have wide-reaching benefits.
That covers the legislative docket. Now let's talk about the upcoming committee hearing. The House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Environment will meet today at 2-page M. UTC to consider the fiscal year 2027 Environmental Protection Agency budget.
This hearing is a key part of the appropriations process. The subcommittee will review the EPA's proposed spending, ask agency officials about priorities like clean water, air quality, and climate resilience, and ultimately shape the budget that moves to the full Energy and Commerce Committee.
For listeners, the EPA budget influences everything from the enforcement of pollution standards to funding for community grant programs that clean up local waterways. Decisions made in this hearing can affect public health and environmental quality across the country.
And because the EPA budget is part of the larger federal appropriations cycle, the outcome will feed into the full House and Senate budget negotiations later this year.
To sum up, we've seen bills that range from honoring historic service to tightening nuclear policy, from simplifying caregiver paperwork to strengthening chip security. Each of these proposals has a pathway that could touch everyday Americans, whether through lower taxes, better healthcare access, safer communities, or a cleaner environment.
Keep an eye on the progress of these bills as they move through committees and onto the floor. Also, watch the EPA budget hearing for clues about the administration's environmental priorities for the next fiscal year.
That's all for today's Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for listening.
Stay informed, and we'll be back with more Washington Insight soon.